Welcome, everybody. We're going to get started. My name is Mary Davis Fournier. I'm with ALA's Public Programs Office, and I'm pleased to introduce today's webinar, A Recipe for Reading Culinary Literacy at Your Library. This webinar highlights an innovative program model that started with the Free Library of Philadelphia. This model uses cooking as a vehicle for learning, and libraries around the country are experiencing positive results that range from building community to advancing English language learning goals to enticing new people to the library. Next slide, please. Before we start, I'm going to make a quick few announcements. Today's webinar is presented by ALA's Public Programs Office with support from ALA's Cultural Communities Fund. To learn more about the Cultural Communities Fund or to make a contribution, follow this link that you see on the screen or visit ala.org/CCF. Hopefully many of you are familiar with Programming Librarian, a website of ALA's Public Programs Office. We've got lots of program ideas and an online learning library that's full of free webinars just like this one. Next slide, please. A couple of notes about this virtual classroom. Only our presenters have microphone access today, but you're welcome to type your questions or comments in the chat box. I see many of you have been using it already to say hi and shout out where you're from. Please keep doing that. To send the chat message, if you haven't already, move your cursor to the bottom of the Zoom window and click on chat, and then you can post right in there. If you have any technical issues, please use the Q&A window to communicate with ALA staff. To send a message through the Q&A feature, move your cursor at the bottom of the Zoom window and click on Q&A. Please try not to put technical questions in the chat window as they could be missed if that window is very busy and things are flying by. We'll be able to best respond to technical questions as quickly as possible if you put them in Q&A. Please note this session will be recorded. So if you'd like to review any information from this session, you can do so via the archived version that we send out later today. And if you want to share this amazing webinar with your friends and colleagues, you can send the link via the Programming Librarian website link that will be posted within 24 hours. Next slide, please. So we have some amazing presenters today, and I'm so pleased to introduce them. They're from the Free Library of Philadelphia and the Athens Regional Library System in Georgia. First, Liz Fitzgerald. She is the director of the Free Library of Philadelphia's Culinary Literacy Center and the Languages and Learning Center. The Culinary Literacy Center is the first kitchen classroom in a library in the nation, and it serves as a model for libraries and cultural institutions around the world. Liz has been with the Free Library for 11 years, and she was named a mover and shaker by Library Journal in 2016. Valerie Bell is the executive director of the 5-county Athens Regional Library System. It's headquartered in Athens, Georgia. Under Valerie's leadership, the Athens Regional System has formed many community partnerships and has been awarded multiple grants, including a 2-year Community Catalyst grant by the Institute of Museum and Library Services to become a trauma-informed library in partnership with the University of Georgia School of Social Work, and an American Dream Literacy grant from the American Library Association, sponsored by Dollar General Literacy Foundation, which helped them establish the library system's culinary literacy program that you'll be hearing about today. Athens Regional Library System was named Georgia's Public Library of the Year in 2017. Tracy Guillorn is the children's specialist at the Royston Public Library in Georgia. Her favorite part of her job is programming and having children develop a lifelong love of the library and literacy. And she started as a children's specialist in 2018. And since she started, program attendance numbers have tripled, and more families have become regular patrons and supporters of all library programming. And then Austin Jenkins is the branch manager of the Oglethorpe County Library in Georgia. He was recently selected to participate in the 4th cohort of the Young Adult Library Service Association and the Association for Rural and Small Libraries joint project Future Ready with the library. He previously worked as a children's librarian, children's services specialist, and teen services specialist, as well as manager of the Winterville Library. So, first, we're going to hear from Liz Fitzgerald, who'll be talking with us about the Free Library of Philadelphia's innovations, which have really driven culinary literacy programming as a versatile and adaptable program model nationally. Next slide, please. And then Valerie Bell and her team will share how Athens Regional adapted this model to focus on literacy goals and along the way receive funding from the American Dream Project. They will share how they adapted the literacy model for many different settings, budgets, and service populations. There will be time for questions at the end, but again, please feel free to post them in chat as we go. We will get to them all. And with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Liz. Take us away, Liz. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Liz Fitzgerald. I am the director of the Free Library of Philadelphia's Culinary Literacy Center. Next slide, please. So the Culinary Literacy Center is at our Parkway Central Library, which is one of 54 branches in the Free Library of Philadelphia. We have system-wide nearly 5 million in-person library visits. We have over 750,000 library card holders, and they are borrowing more than 5 million materials system-wide and attending over 300,000 library programs. Next slide, please. This is the Culinary Literacy Center. We are a commercial grade kitchen classroom that is on the 4th floor of our Parkway Central Library. You can see here that we have a pretty great setup. We're very lucky. We have 9 stainless steel tables that have 36 seats. We have 3 cameras that all feed to that giant LED screen in the corner. We have 16 burners on our ovens, 4 of which are in the prep table. We have 4 convection ovens, 3 reach-in refrigerators, 1 walk-in fridge. We have a dishwashing pit. We have a lot of storage, but there's never enough storage. And we keep literally hundreds of pieces of equipment, from bowls to spoons to frying pans, you name it, we have it. We opened in 2014, and since then we've seen over 40,000 people at more than 1,500 programs, both here at Parkway Central and in our neighborhood libraries. We have a staff of 8 humans, that is, because we also have 250,000 coworkers that live in an apiary just right outside on the roof of the library. And last week we actually harvested 60 pounds of honey from our coworkers. Next slide, please. So what is culinary literacy? We, as the first space of its kind in a library in the country, have defined it as learning about cooking and learning through cooking. So there really is no end to what you can learn through cooking when you start to think about it. You can learn reading, writing, math, science, history, nutrition, health and wellness, and of course you can learn cooking. And all of our programs are built on this idea that cooking and eating are educational acts. And we use food both as the vehicle and the context for learning. Next slide, please. So we do programs in our super impressive space here at Parkway Central, but we also are doing programs, and a lot of them, in our neighborhood libraries. And in our last fiscal year, we hosted 118 programs in our neighborhood library branches. And that's a quarter of all of our culinary literacy programs that we offered. All you need is access to a clean surface, access to running water, electricity. You need to know food safety standards and have the cooking tools and equipment. And so in terms of food safety standards, we use ServSafe, and the food handlers certification is $15 to take that. Oftentimes, people have questions around allergies and release forms and liability. And in terms of liability, we're covered under the library's just across the board liability. Allergies, we really don't cook with any allergens. We try and keep them out as much as possible. And we don't use release forms unless we are doing programming that is like a make and take, which some of our branches do for like a cookbook club program, but we tend to stay away from it. And our kitchen is certified by our Department of Public Health, and we're certified just like any other restaurant or space in a city that's serving food, which means we're subject to regular drop-ins from our local friendly health inspector. All right, next slide, please. So again, you can do this anywhere. And how do we do it in spaces that are not our kitchen? Well, you can do it with, on the right, that's our culinary literacy cart. And that's Chef Maddie, who is a registered dietitian with a local grocery store, who's using the cart in our South Philadelphia library. We have 3 of these carts that are spaced out throughout the system, and they contain in them everything that you need to host a cooking program. On the left is a picture of when we took our show on the road and went to Aarhus, Denmark for Next Library. And we built out the kitchen in a box at the IKEA that we went to as soon as we arrived. And so really you can do this program anywhere as long as you have access to a place where you can buy the equipment. And in terms of a kit, you can get a pretty substantial kit for $150. We have that, like our suggested list of what you would need for a kit. It's in our toolkit, and there's a link to that later on. And then the next slide, please. So we like to think of our programs in 2 different buckets. Our first bucket are our public programs. And the public programs really provide a unique entry point to the library. Oftentimes, the participants in our classes come just for the culinary literacy programs to the library. And so when we have people who are coming to the library for our programs, we have the opportunity to show them all of the other resources that the library has. So we're really connecting our print materials, our electronic resources, our special collections to the work that we're doing in the kitchen. And also our classes, a small percentage of them are ticketed. And the ticketed programs, I did just want to talk about this because I know it came up on the Facebook programming librarian page. It was 12% of our total our total programs did have a cost associated with them. And that we really feel like the programs that we're hosting, and it's only at our Parkway Central Library. We charge because our supplies have a shelf life, literally. And because we were finding that we didn't know how many people to expect if we didn't have a small ticket price associated with it. We also feel like our programs have a significant value. Some of our presenters are teaching at other locations throughout the city that are not libraries and charging. For example, we had a butcher come in and do a program, and tickets at another location cost $200, where at our location it's $20. We need to cover the costs because we pay our presenters to teach the classes, and we also have to cover the cost of ingredients. We use the revenue to support our targeted population programs that are all free, and we also use it to support our neighborhood library programs that are also entirely free. And in our last fiscal year, we had 54 programs that we charged for, and we sold 1,300 tickets, but we also comped 1,000 tickets. And anyone who's SNAP eligible is allowed to attend our programs for free, no questions asked. Next slide, please. So our other bucket of programming is our targeted program. And our targeted programs, when we're thinking about who we are going to be offering these programs for and what populations we hope to reach through cooking, we use some questions to guide our thinking. So who are our core audiences? Who is our free library strategic plan hoping to support through the library as a whole? We like to think of who are our traditionally underserved communities, both by the city and the library. And I always love to think about who's not coming to the library and how can we engage people through cooking, because food and cooking are this universal act and item that really bring people together. Next slide, please. So I just wanted to give a pretty quick rundown of our targeted population programming. Excuse me. So before I run through these, I just wanted to say that the partnerships really are the foundation of the work that we do. And we couldn't offer our programs without our fantastic partners throughout the city and the region. So our Healthy Communities Initiative is a program that's entirely in our neighborhood libraries, and it takes a holistic approach to wellness. And what we are doing is capacity building. And that program is sponsored by the Philadelphia Department of Public Health. And when we're talking about capacity building, for us, because that's a bit of a nonprofit buzzword, how we're defining that really is we are doing a lot of train the trainer programs and then hiring the people that we're training. So we did a community chef training at our one of our branches in North Philadelphia. Cooking with Confidence is a program for young adults with autism spectrum disorder. And we have been bringing in classes from local high schools. They're autism support classes. And we've been, the Cooking with Confidence offers a series of recipes and programs where our participants can get hands-on, try some new food, the cooking and the eating facilitate conversation. And that program is in partnership with Drexel University and their Philly Autism Project. Cookability is a program for people with visual impairments. Our chef for that program is blind himself, and we host programs both at the Culinary Literacy Center and outreach at locations at our partners. Next slide, please. So on the top left, you'll see a picture from our Healthy Communities Initiative. And that's a group there who participated in our 4-day community chef training. And again, these are individuals who, once we trained them, they, and through the 4-day training, we got them ServSafe certified, and now we're hiring them to teach more culinary literacy programs in our neighborhood libraries. On the right is a picture of one of our staff at the Lillian Marrero Library. We were able to build a raised bed garden on the side of that branch. And the library that that program is offered in is, it's located in the poorest zip code in Philadelphia. It's 60% poverty, and it's a quarter of the people in that zip code are non-native English speakers. On the bottom is a picture from our Cooking with Confidence class. Next slide, please. 2 of our additional targeted programs are Nourishing Literacy. And Nourishing Literacy is a program, it's our school visit program. And last year we saw during the school year over 5,000 students. And they come, we see as many as 4 classes a week in the Culinary Literacy Center, which in Philadelphia means that there's 30+ students in each class. And we also do programming in neighborhood libraries, and we do outreach visits to the schools. So it's a real multifaceted approach to learning through cooking with students in a really hands-on way. We also ran our Summertime Cooks Camp, which was a 3-week summer cooking camp at Parkway Central. Edible Alphabet is our program for English language learners. And we are using, as with all of our programs, cooking and food as a context for learning, but what our participants are learning in Edible Alphabet is English. And we're using both cooking and libraries as a context for that learning. And not only are our participants learning English, but a really important part of it is that they are building community and making friendships through this program, feeling less isolated. We offer that program at Parkway Central, and then now every Friday we are offering programming at the Lillian Marrero Library every single week, which is very exciting for us. And we also have the program in 2 other libraries that have high concentrations of English language learners in their communities. And what we have been able to do with our programs, we really do take the show on the road, and there are several libraries who are who have been inspired by what we're offering and are now offering it at their libraries. So for Edible Alphabet, we have curriculum that we have given and shared with several libraries, including the Athens Regional Library System. And I am gonna toss it over to Valerie and the team from Athens. Oh, here's some pictures. Sorry, I did this last time in practice. The top left is a picture from our nursing literacy visit, and then the other 2 photos are pictures from our Edible Alphabet program. Next slide.
Thank you, Liz and Mary and ALA and everyone attending for having us. It's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon. My name is Valerie Bell, and I'm the Executive Director for the Athens Regional Library System, which is located in Northeast Georgia. Our vision is engaging communities exceeding expectations. Our library system serves approximately 237,000, I know it says 227, but that's a typo, 237,000 residents in 5 counties through 11 branches. We have an operating budget just over $4 million, so we're a little bit different than the Free Library of Philadelphia. However, like the Free Library of Philadelphia and all of you who are participating in this webinar, we do have a creative and energetic staff who are eager to serve the residents of their counties. Next slide, please. Our journey to culinary literacy began at the Library Journal Director Summit that was held in Philadelphia a couple of years ago. It was during that summit that Liz and her team presented their culinary literacy program to the attendees. We were also able to tour the professional kitchen that's located in the library. I was blown away, to say the least. I immediately started dreaming of how a program like this could impact, transform, and change the lives of members in our communities. As luck would have it, when I returned to Georgia, the annual American Dream Grant was being announced. So the whole team, I began thinking of how we could bring culinary literacy programs to our library system. We thought about purchasing a Charlie cart, which would have been ideal, but we wanted to impact as many branches and community members as possible, and we would have only been able to buy 1 Charlie cart with the grant. So we decided to create our own kitchen carts. We purchased a Wayland Santa Fe kitchen cart with metal shelves, I believe from Walmart. These carts roll very easily, even when they're full, and they can be stored in a closet in the meeting rooms. Liz and her team at the Free Library of Philadelphia were very generous with their time, and they shared lots of information and tips with us. With our $10,000 American Dream Grant, we stocked 8 carts with lots and lots of kitchen equipment and prepared to send them to our branches around the region. But we really wanted to unveil this new service to our staff in a splashy and fun way that would inspire and spark their imagination. Next slide, please. So naturally, we invited Liz and her team to be the keynote speakers at our Staff Development Day in 2018, last year. We're just starting our Staff Development Day in November for 2019. So we've done this program a little less than a year. Just barely less than a year. We covered 2 of the carts with tablecloths, and about a quarter of the way through the presentation, Liz and her team unveiled the carts and announced that our branches would be receiving these carts for programming. Everybody whooped and hollered, and it was a real good time. They also brought up staff to help prepare food, and we were on our way. Next slide, please. At the headquarters branch, we hired a literacy instructor, Terry Salgano, and a chef named Shawanda Johnson. They're at the top of the screen. They worked with our assistant director, Jean Mead, to prepare a series of programs that combined our English conversation group with our literacy group, Everyday Readers. Next slide, please. This group bonded while reading the recipes and practicing their English skills for a 6-week series. To celebrate, at the end of the series, there was a potluck dinner. Each participant made a dish to share, and they had to write and read aloud the recipe in English. Along with those recipes, every participant was given the book Good and Cheap, Eat Well on $4 a Day. This free downloadable book is available in both English and Spanish, and it's available in print for about $5. We've run this particular series 2 or 3 times, and we've actually taken it on the road and did it off-site at a local church. And we used the Edible Alphabet curriculum for it. Next slide, please. Additionally, over the last year, we've conducted single standalone programs. With our teens, we ran a summer reading program entitled Galaxy Goodies. That was fun. And with our children, we've run 2 programs. One, Cook with a Pirate, and the other is in celebration of Dia, was entitled A Storytime Stew, based on the book Thank You, Amu. All of the youth programs keep STEAM and STEM and literacy components in mind. The Georgia Public Library Service has a division named GLASS, which stands for Georgia Libraries for Accessible Statewide Services. In a previous life, one of the GLASS staff was a chef. She's the one that suggested a series of 3 classes at our Oconee County branch in partnership with Extra Special People, a nonprofit organization serving adults with developmental disabilities or challenges. All of the programs have been very, very successful, and all of our branches have expanded the Athens Regional Library Culinary Literacy Program. Next slide, please. Our next to speak is Austin Jenkins. He's our Oglethorpe County branch manager, and he's going to talk to you about the ways that they've used the kitchen cart at his branch. Austin?
Thank you, Val. Hello, everyone. My name is Austin Jenkins. I'm the branch manager of the Oglethorpe County Library. Today, I'd like to talk with you about, show you a couple of the programs that we've run with our kitchen cart. We were using these carts as a way to specifically engage with patrons who don't regularly use the library and maybe aren't aware of all of the resources that we have. Oglethorpe County is the largest county land-wise in terms of land size in Athens Regional. And we've got also the lowest population density. So a lot of land, not a lot of neighbors. So it's really been our focus to sort of be a hub where people from across the county can connect with one another. Additionally, I'd like to add that the programs that I'm going to be sharing with you today, the ideas from those came from the Programming Librarian website. So those will be available for you at the end, I think, as well, if you'd like to review where we got this inspiration. Next slide, please. So the first idea was the cookbook challenge. What this is it's an ongoing book club series that encourages patrons to check out a cookbook from the library's collection, choose a recipe from that cookbook, and then bring it to a themed community potluck. So we've had it, we started this program before we actually even got the kitchen cart because all it requires is patrons to make food at home. So it doesn't necessarily require cooking in the library. And this is a really great a program that patrons love. It helps them discover new recipes, try new techniques. And there's also a communal element of the potluck, of just the fellowship that naturally comes with conversation over dinner. The programs, like I said, are all themed, which usually it's usually to a type of cuisine like Mexican food or Italian food, things like that. Or we might try a cookbook author like Bobby Flay or Ina Garten, anything like that. What you see from in the picture here is from this summer. We just opened up the theme kind of broadly to summer recipes, and most of our patrons chose to interpret that theme as using ingredients that are more in season during the summer. So you can see Lamara here on the left found a cookbook for all about tomatoes, and she made a really great sun-dried tomato bread from it. Jean on the right there found a cookbook and made a berry dessert, which is wonderful. This was the first instance of the program that we actually used the kitchen cart to cook live. We chose a recipe, a lemonade recipe that was written by a local chef and former top chef judge, Hugh Atchison. And cooking live allowed us to showcase some of the new resources that were available at the library, and was also a great visual interest and draw for patrons who were just passing by the meeting room and just happened to pop their head in. And so it's a little bit more than just seeing people eating in the meeting room. It's also seeing people cook in the meeting room. And that's was a great thing for them. Next slide, please. So we've also used the mobile kitchen to bring in local chefs and restaurant owners as a way to specifically reach out to people. My thought was patrons who don't regularly use the library, they may not be interested in joining an ongoing cookbook club and coming to the library on a regular basis, but they might be inclined to stop in if they know that the food that's going to be made is going to be made by someone from a very popular restaurant. This program here featured Jami Zarnagar he's a co-owner of the Last Resort Grill in Athens. Mr. Zarnagar heard about our new mobile kitchens from one of our library board members, and he was eager to help out in just about any way that he could. And for us, it was a great match. The Last Resort has a wonderful reputation and history in the Athens area. It was actually owned at one point by the drummer from the band REM. So there's a lot of history in that, and that was a huge draw for people as well. And the Last Resort is also one of the higher end restaurants in the Athens area. And so I thought he was a great match because the people from my community, the Oglethorpe community, may not have had the experience of eating cuisine from that restaurant, whether because of distance or finances or things like that. So it overall was a really great match for us. As far as what happened during the program, Mr. Zarnagar was the one who decided he wanted to teach, or he chose the topic. It was a technique called en papillote, I believe. It's cooking food within a parchment paper pouch. And also he willingly volunteered to bring all the ingredients himself, so that wasn't a cost for us in that situation. Next slide, please. So during the program, he opened by sharing some stories and anecdotes about his path from cook to owner at Last Resort. And then he started talking the audience through the steps of making salmon with vegetables in that parchment paper pouch. Some of the ingredients he prepared ahead of time, like he made this wonderful Dijon cream sauce that went over the salmon. It was beautiful, but that was already made. And then he did do some ingredient prep live during the program. And the combination of those two, the having some pre-made, but also doing some live, kept it so that he wasn't just standing behind the cart for 30 minutes talking to people at what he did beforehand, and gave him some sort of visual interest, but it also wasn't just him standing behind the cart, head down, making Dijon cream sauce and trying to get all of these things together. So it's a really great mix of things. Within about 10 minutes of the event, people were already starting to ask questions. Questions like, can this method be used with other proteins? What wine would you pair with this? And so things like that. That was almost an immediate response from the audience. There was a woman here, this woman here on the bottom right. She is a local bed and breakfast owner, and she just was furiously taking notes the entire program because she wanted to try to find a way to incorporate this new technique into her into the meals that she makes at her B&B. Next slide, please. So he prepared one pouch first, and then paused for a moment for a little bit to answer a few more questions. And then he'd brought enough to make a second pouch, and he offered to have someone from the audience come up to help him prepare, go through the steps with him. They didn't have any takers at this time, but I do think in the future there would probably be some volunteers willing to step up and be a part of that. And then about 40 minutes into the event, the food was ready for the tasting. Everybody just got a plate and a fork and just lined up to have a sample of the food. You can see it's gorgeous, and it was both gorgeous and delicious. So as far as the program goes, we were we mentioned that the goal was trying to reach out to people who had never used the library or who don't use the library regularly. And I can go ahead and tell you that's a success, and that's in this picture here on the right. All three people who are lined up there, the blue shirt and the red shirt, who you can't really see their faces, and then this woman here in the front, they were all people who had never either never been to the library or hadn't been in a long time. Sarah here is the woman in front. She's from our local middle school. She's the agricultural science teacher, and she had never been to our library before. But when we were starting to announce this event, she was messaging us on Facebook trying to make sure that she was able to get in. It was a really great opportunity for us to reach out to that community. Next slide, please. But we also wanted to measure other types of patrons' response. You can see Babs here. Babs is one of the friends of the library. She can kind of just say it all for how they felt about the program, but we did want to measure it too. So we used PLA's Project Outcome website to sort of give everyone a survey, ask them what they thought about the project, thought about the program, whether they felt they'd learned anything. And you can see on the left there that patrons did report feeling that they had learned something, that they felt more confident about what they learned, and that they intended to apply what they learned in the future. And then half of the responses for this survey also requested that we make sure to continue this program in some form. So to that end, we are reaching out to other local restaurants. There's a new coffee shop that's opened up that makes incredible donuts. So we're hoping to bring them in to demonstrate their skills. And then there's also a new barbecue place in town. We want to bring them in to show off some of their barbecue sides. And so those are the things we're going to be doing in the future. That's it on my side. I'm going to turn it over to Tracy from our Royston branch, who will talk about some children's literacy programs.
Right, thank you so much, Austin. Hi, everyone. I hope you're enjoying this webinar. My name is Tracy Guillorn, and I'm the children's specialist at the Royston Public Library. We are located in Royston, Georgia, which is a very small rural town. We serve a population of less than 3,000 people. As you can imagine, our town has very limited children's programming other than sports. We're about 40 minutes to the next largest city where our parents would be able to access anything other than that. It's because of this that I was so excited when Valerie announced at our staff development day that we would be receiving our culinary cards from the American Dream Act. I had light bulbs going off. I just knew that there were going to be so many opportunities that it would give to the needs of our community. We decided for the summer to focus on children's culinary literacy and to learn together in a fun environment. As you can see here pictured is one of our friends of the library. She is reading a children's book about pizza to one of our cooking classes. We offered many cooking classes over this summer to a large variety of ages. Today I'm choosing to discuss two of our most successful programs that met the needs in our community. Next slide, please. So KanDoo Kids Can Cook. We were approached by the leadership of our local KanDoo Kids, which is an organization that serves special needs children in our community. They were having a difficult time finding quality programs designed just for them. Their main goal was to provide an opportunity for the kids to learn how to cook a simple meal and inspire independence and confidence in their literary and cooking skills. It was requested for the children's comfort that we meet with them in an environment they were accustomed to and that we would bring the cooking equipment to them. They have a kitchen with basic appliances, so what we brought were the items that you see here pictured from our cart. We also brought pots and pans and all of the recipe ingredients. With their sensory and allergy concerns, we could not use latex gloves for food prep, so we discussed the importance of hand washing, food safety, and cross-contamination. This is also one reason why we limited this program to just 6 children per class. And the ages of these children in this picture are from 7 to 14. Our menu consisted of a personal sized pizza that they could customize with their favorite toppings, a salad, and cupcakes for dessert. We provided individual recipe cards and taught them how to read and follow the recipe. To make a meal that is sometimes considered unhealthy, we taught them how to use fresh veggies on their pizzas, and then we paired it with a side salad. Afterwards, you can see in the top picture, we baked cupcakes and we discussed future programming and things that they would like to cook. Many in the special needs community have multiple allergies. So we also discussed with the children and the parents what each child's needs were and how to read the ingredients on the original packaging, which we brought with us to the program. Next slide, please. This program was a huge success and very well received with both parents and children. They learned not only that they could cook themselves, but that they could do so while having fun. Since the children wanted to do more cooking and baking, we have decided to create a series based on the books listed here, the Complete Cookbook for Young Chefs and the Complete Baking Book for Young Chef. One Wednesday a month, we will bring the equipment to them and they will learn how to cook a new recipe. Our next steps include showing the cookbook to the children, letting them each choose a recipe. They will write down which ingredients they need. We will meet them at the grocery store to help them shop for these ingredients, and then they will take everything that they have learned to create their own meal. This will reinforce their literary and cooking skills, and it will do so in a fun environment. Next slide, please. So we are very excited about the opportunity of our next culinary children's literacy program, and it's called the Curious Gardeners. In the top photo, you will see some of our children that make up our program, the Curious Gardeners. We are partnering with several different local agencies, which include our high school's Future Farmers of America, the Royston Housing Authority, and our local farmer, Mr. Tompkins, who has generously sponsored and donated a lot of time and funds to help our program move forward. Mr. Tompkins, who is pictured in the bottom left photo with the kids, owns a farm in Sandy Cross. He and his family attend our story time every week. Once he saw the culinary programs that we were hosting during our summer reading program, he approached us with a partnership deal. He is building us and providing a portable greenhouse for our library so that our children can learn how to grow and harvest their own crops. The Future Farmers of America will provide their junior and senior students to come by the library weekly and to teach the children how to care for the plants. Our local housing authority has asked for more programs that involve teaching healthy ways of living due to a lot of their children only having access to processed and frozen meals. So we are using the 3 books that you see in the bottom right picture to enhance all of those programs through literacy. Together as a community of public, private, homeschool, and special needs children, we will start a garden and grow plants, knowledge, and friendships that will last a lifetime. Next slide, please. Our Curious Gardeners meet twice a month. Our first meeting was to cover the importance of bees and pollination. You can see in the top 2 pictures here, Mr. Tompkins brought his equipment to our library, and we taught the kids the value of beekeeping and how to safely harvest honey. Our second meeting was a tour of Mr. Tompkins' farm, where he began showing the children how to plant seeds and to take care of them. In the bottom 2 pictures, you can see they were planting spinach seeds, and last night they updated me on those, and some of them are getting close to harvesting their baby spinach. Our next programs will cover vermiculture and botany. We will have a worm bin in the storage room of our library, and the children will come by and feed them to create the compost we will need in January to start planting. We will also teach the kids about botany and offer them more literature on the care and keeping of their plants. In January, we will have our portable greenhouse delivered and installed and begin to plant our seeds. We will grow tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, and other vegetables that they can eat and cook. The FFA students will work with our kids weekly to make sure the plants are growing and healthy. In late spring, we will harvest our plants with the children, and this summer we will teach them all how to create delicious and nutritious meals. And as of just a few days ago, we are excited to announce that our City Council has approved for our library to have a children's garden installed that the children will be able to maintain year-round. So we are very grateful for all of the equipment that has been provided to us, and we are thankful for the opportunity to be able to speak with you and tell you about our fun and amazing programs. And back to Val.
Thank you. Thank you so much. As you can see, we're having a great time with our kitchen carts. It's a lot of fun, and we're truly engaging our communities. One of the things, we've created a very short video to help publicize our culinary literacy programs. And so here it is. Next slide, please.
Making great food at home or for our schools, it could be one of the most important things that we can do. If we can upgrade those things in our areas and know what's available and what incredible things you can do, which are not going to cost a fortune, is going to make us all healthier and happier, and our children too.
To be able to come to your local library, to be able to learn something that you can then incorporate at home that then affects your children is so great.
Come on in.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much, everyone. That was amazing. We have, I think, about, almost 10 minutes, a little more than 10 minutes left for some questions. We'd like to take some of your questions. There have been so many going by in the chat box. So, and if you have more to add to them, just post them. We will try to get through as many as we can. Samantha's been, from the Public Programs Office, has been keeping track of them, and she may consolidate them a little bit. I'm going to sort of let her start lobbing them invite her to start lobbing them at our panelists.
Great. Thanks, Mary. So I think the first question is around funding. How did you pay for the Culinary Literacy Center, Liz?
Sure. So the initial build out was part of capital renovations that are happening to this building. So it was a combination of city, state, and private dollars that were raised for it. But in terms of our ongoing funding, we have several sources. So one source is the ticketed programming that we do. A really substantial source of revenue comes from our contracted caterer for the building. At Parkway Central, we do like a bajillion weddings and conferences, and part of that revenue comes back to support our programs. We also get substantial amounts from private dollars, so corporate sponsorships, small family grants, and from individuals. And in terms of how we do that fundraising, the Free Library of Philadelphia has a 501c3, the Free Library of Philadelphia Foundation. So they do the fundraising for our programs.
Great. And then how much is sustainability for the Culinary Center?
So I talked about how we have 8 staff members. 4 of them are Free Library staff members, and the other are foundation employees. So what does it cost to keep our program running for a year? It's probably around $300,000, but we're doing a massive amount of programs. And it's a significant investment from the library and from our foundation to keep those programs up and running.
Great. And then Val, what's the range of the budget for, depending on the branch that you're implementing your programs at?
The branch's budgets run, they're all under $1 million. I'll put it that way. Some of them, their total budgets are well under $1 million. I don't know if is that what you mean by the question?
For this program, like the culinary literacy program.
For the culinary literacy program, a lot of times when they're hosting these programs, they may ask the friends groups to co-sponsor or to sponsor the foods. With the grant, we were able to save $50 for everybody that got a cart, that received a cart. They also received $50 in funding for their first program that they could use for food.
And I just wanted to add that, like, the number that I threw out for what our program costs is big and scary sounding, but you really can do a program on significantly less. You can do a program at a branch library if it's a one-off, and have a registered dietitian from a local grocery store come in and teach the class for free. You can have a restaurant come in and have a chef come in and teach it as a promotion for free and bring all of the ingredients. So it doesn't have to cost $300,000 annually to.
No, and you know, it's interesting too, because even the local food bank, if there's a food bank in your area, usually they're willing to either donate and or have somebody come and do a presentation.
Can I just respond to one of the questions that came up in the chat?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. It was a question about the toolkit. That toolkit can be found at freelibrary.org/cook, and it's right on our homepage on the right-hand side of the page. That's a toolkit link.
Great. So for the culinary carts, do they have ovens on them?
Mm-hmm. It's ours have a small convection oven.
And we purchased an oven, a convection oven for the carts as well. So yes.
Great. And then there's a lot of questions about food safety and liability. What kind of forms do you guys usually take, if you take any, especially for the culinary potlucks that you discussed, just around health concerns and liability?
To the best of my knowledge, we did not get a form from people for the potlucks. Do you guys use a form at all?
We do not.
No, we didn't collect any.
We do use a form for potlucks, and we got it from, there's like a food swap coalition that has a form, and that we just modified that and ran it by our legal team. If anyone's interested in that, I can definitely share it. Because yeah, we have people sign things when food is being made not in our spaces.
And I want to say too, as far as children are concerned, so the special needs children that I'm working with, everything that we do with them falls underneath their umbrella. So they cover the cost, they know the liability, that's their insurance. And when children are attending programs in our library, their parents are with them, and we've discussed everything with them ahead of time. And so that's kind of understood. They know what ingredients we're using, you know, and we also do not cook with anything that's allergen.
And in terms of just food safety, so our space is certified and gets inspected, like I mentioned. All of our staff have the food manager certification through ServSafe, but when we bring programs out to neighborhood libraries, there has to be at least one person who has the food handler certification. That again is $15 to take online, and it's good for several years. And you know, we don't get releases for every program. We know that we're not the first library to serve food in the country. We just are the first with this fancy kitchen. And I've done a lot of cooking in libraries that have not had a kitchen. I've never had someone sign off on a release form for like, you know, a candy sushi making class or like a smoothie program. So we are basically that, but just on a bit of a bigger scale. And one of our partners is the Department of Public Health. So, and they know everything about what we do. So I think we're okay for now.
Great. And then around cleaning and upkeep of the kitchen as well as the carts, who makes sure that they're up to code?
So for us, we have a dish pit. We have it's like a restaurant dishwasher room, and that's where all of our equipment goes through. And so when two of our branches, we actually purchased dishwashers for them so that they didn't have to keep sending the equipment back to us. But we have an outside contractor. It's a city contract that we have a daily clean for our kitchen and then a really intense monthly clean that the contracted cleaner does.
And then the Athens crew, we had a question specifically for you guys around how did you share the program information with people that don't normally attend your library events?
So that was, basically it's Facebook. Our friends group decided they wanted to pay for Facebook advertising specifically for that event. So that we could make sure that we were reaching those kinds of people. That's how the teacher from the middle school found out about us, just because the friends actually purchased paid Facebook advertising.
And I know the same for us. Facebook is our #1 tool, word of mouth, our local newspaper, your schools, you get it out to your elementary schools, your middle schools. Once people find out you have a great program and others are limited, it doesn't take much time at all to get the programming in.
And if you're cooking in a meeting room, you know, it smells really good. So
absolutely.
So people tend to come in that are just walking by and wondering what you're doing.
Great. And then if you're doing a culinary literacy program with limited number of cooking tools or ingredients, how do you make sure that they're interactive rather than just presentational?
Do you guys want to take that?
Go ahead. We just invite people up to participate. That's what the children's librarians have done.
Children always want to participate. So we have the opposite problem with children is having them stand back instead of trying to come up too much. You just take turns. It's sharing, and you bring 1 or 2 up at a time. You have extra adults to help out, and you just enjoy it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, we do both demonstration classes and hands-on, and similarly, like, we're just inviting people up, even in the demo classes, to help with part of it. But we, for some of our targeted population programs, we're really thinking and intentional about how we're going to involve people. So it's sort of doing this like mental acrobatics in advance of a class to think, okay, so we have 20 people who are going to be in the program. We don't want to make too much food. How can we break apart the recipe? And then oftentimes it's bringing it together in like a stone soup kind of approach to making the meal.
Great.
And the one that we did with the that was a joint group that we put together with our literacy group and our English conversation group. They actually participated. They were handed, utensils and things like that, and they actually did the work themselves because we were trying to encourage conversation.
Great. So we have about 2 minutes left, so this will be the last question. What kind of cooking equipment or tools would you recommend for a library with a very limited budget and a very limited space?
What we used, and I'm sure Liz will be happy to share that, but they have a list in the toolkit of the things that you can buy. And you know what? It's really not that expensive. You can buy quite a few things that are not very expensive at all. And that's what we used, but we just bought a lot of different things. And the chefs who have been working with us, if they ask for something, then we'll usually, we try and buy it and add it to our kitchen carts.
I've never needed anything that was not in the toolkit that we received. It's very sufficient for most anything that you would encounter.
Yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to look at that list, and also to say that my staff and I are always open to reviewing or sort of doing some consulting on what goes into making a kit. But I'd say start small, and you definitely need like just metal mixing bowls, some chef's knives, and then some cutting boards, some spoons. It's just basic stuff that you really can get at Walmart, at IKEA. You can get it anywhere.
Okay, I think that is it. Thank you. I want to give a huge thank you to our presenters for today's webinar, and to you all for joining us. We had a great turnout with this webinar today. It will be available for viewing on programminglibrarian.org within the next 24 to 48 hours. Thank you so much, Liz and Austin and Valerie, and I just cannot tell you how exciting this model is, and you know, how much we are looking forward to hearing from libraries around the country and what they are doing with this. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mary. It was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
See you, Liz.
Bye, Val.